those college courses like maybe they can be expensive, but
Ordinary?
Where do we put the entrepreneurs? But aren't okay.
But how do we educate these entrepreneurs?
What we were saying was the first step. The first step is to create a label, because at the moment we can't identify if this mobile phone is made with the conflict minerals or not. So creating a label is the first step. But we were talking with Samizuma-san, and she pointed out that creating a label is a bit risky because you have to pay for the labels and to get the labels. So only big companies can afford it. So one solution, maybe it's quite difficult one, but we came up with to make compulsory for the company to display if it contains conflict minerals. For example, if you buy food, if you see back labels of the food, it displays everything what's contained. So like that, maybe it's one idea to make laws and make it compulsory. And these two things are for the identification. And what we have to do, what we have to do is to educate people. So even if the people is aware of it, you have to tell the story. And to do it, we divide it into two steps. First step is for the introduction. So like hold events for the promotion, like Tokyo Girls collection. And so it's just to get everyone to become aware of it.
Right.
Second step is that we have to tell the story beneath it. So maybe we can invite famous companies like HP or other famous people to tell the real story and what is happening at the moment. And we also thought that it was quite important to make these problems make part of their lives, so it's contained in the daily life. Thank you.
How do you make it?
We did.
Okay. That was what you read at our time.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you very much.
We came up with a creative idea for Under Armour.
Okay.
And before we talked to Saejima-san, we weren't actually thinking of the concept. We weren't sure about the concept. The concept is unclear, and we thought less advertising before we talked with her. And we weren't sure who's the target, and we thought it's too expensive for ethical. Though after we talked to Saejima-san, we found out that ethical people don't buy just only for ethical, but they buy for fashion. And they buy it because they think that you can support people by buying products. So we came up with two answers. One, maybe on the bag we can put the QR code and actually tracking of how you can actually save people and how that product is made. So there's a story behind it that people can really understand why we want to buy that product. And second, ethical, we have we have in mind that ethical is not fashionable, but people finally buy for something that's very fashionable and something meaningful. So as Andy Allen has a very fashionable design, I think it's very important for people buying for not only the saving people, but only for with the fashion.
Okay.
You want to add? No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Our team is discussed about what we can do in these programs. First, we thought about the story in the how we can tackle it on. The first step is to know the program, and the second step is to think about this is your problem or this is our problem. And the third step is making awareness, but it should be that the more attractive promotion, making awareness. And fourth one, making an ecosystem to have a good cycle of the post procedure to making the product. And here we talked about this second step and third step. Okay, this is not organized as a formal meeting presentation. This is just not. First one, I want to think about you can make a sticker to say this is conflict-free minerals. You know that you have a PCs. Everyone have PCs.
Yes.
But we don't. And most of the company is using conflict-free minerals. Not only HP, but other big companies doing that. But no one noticed it like me. So if you have a PC or the iPad or if there is a big, very cute sticker on the one, maybe no one knows. Oh, what's this? What's conflict-free minerals? So that make a sticker for that one. And next idea is having a friends in the local people. The easy one is like from the high school student, from the junior high school student, having the exchange program and go to the Ethiopia and go to Congo and have a friends, have a friends. Or like any internet company can introduce your friends and you can exchange emails from manager. And if your friend is there, we can think about this is a problem of us. Like, and the third one is making a sub-brand of the big brand, like Cartier or Chanel, making a sub-brand of the complete ones. That the country that like United States, they are very most of the luxury people, they are very happy to pay such these kind of products. They are proud of that. So if we can make that brand, that it may be that maybe they buy it. And the fourth one is like making a promotions. If you buy that 10 bag from Undermet, the Undermet can invite me to go to that factory which they are making and learn more. So if anyone who are interested in that African countries that these companies that they buy more, that they can go there. That's find out. And the other one is making like the movie YouTube, the movie Facebook. The one is you can have ideas. And the last one is invite your families, invite your friends, and the people who here know these issues. So you can talk to these issues to your friends, to your family. And here, like these are the sisters. Here, she invited him to join this discussion. So one by one, you can make that a circle to big discussion.
Okay, great, thank you.
First of all, so we will discuss fashion and Ahmed and HP problem. But these problems are same issue. I think.
All right. Sorry. So we come up with 3 points to how we can make a public more aware of these issues. Yeah, sorry. I didn't really get the full understanding of this issue, but let me talk about 3 things we talk about. First, right. So we're gonna talk about the regulation. The second point is the iconic stuff to make the people aware of this. And third point will be the creating other business and education. So first point. First point was regulation. So about regulation, the Suji will talk about it because actually she works close for the conflict mineral, and then actually her work very involved in this business. So she really knows about the regulation. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I'm not good at it in public, but I just want to describe what happened in the EU Parliament, because I'm following the information from the EU Parliament, which are going to give a really strict rule over the conflict minerals. In the supply chain, all company need make sure the company before, smelter and importer must be audited by the independent auditing company. And then after, all other supply chain companies need to make sure or disclose all the information where they import or buy the conflict minerals. So, but this is not to be regulated yet because it's still under conversation. It's just still going to within 2 months. So that's what I'm talking about here. And then in the U.S. they have a Dodd-Frank law, which is very strict. But now I heard of one of the company against this law, and from next year they don't need to be audited for this coming 2 years. So I think U.S. is gonna change the law as well. They're just competing together, like EU and the U.S. I think after Japanese people should think about this competition as well, because they're all over the world gaining awareness over these issues. Okay.
Thank you. And for second point, I think many team already mentioned. So basically, use the iconic people or celebrity to make sure the favoring this kind of issue is not like a minority opinion. For example, Lady Gaga, as you guys all know, she's a very big fan of, I think, nature, or he's very against yeah, something like that. And then, so basically, yeah, using the iconic figure or iconic stuff to make sure the public see them, and then, oh, it's not a weird thing to support that kind of issue or be against those issues. So that's our second point. And third point would be a little bit of long-term strategy. As you know, the education can be the foundation to make sure the young people that they get educated, and then they, of course, going against those people who has the gun, those army, those things, you might be very hard time to be against. But as being educated is always first step to be, the raise the voice with the logical mind or logical foundation. So we want to support the education for the young people. They might have the knowledge or information, and plus, as you guys know, the current trend is doing startups. So not just working in mining is not the only way for them to make money, but by helping them to create the business like startups with the proper education, that might make the society has a lot of different options to make money. So that's the third the points that we want to highlight to go toward solving this issue eventually. Yeah, thank you.
We had a variety of conversations. So first one was to leverage the power of social media and to deploy the viral marketing. So in the sense that we create the interesting contents first of all, so that attracts the interest of the many people, and that probably gives some kind of weight by the credible organizations such as UN-related organizations. The news is true and genuine, authentic, and then that news will be distributed through the different kind of social media such as Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. These days, the power of YouTubers, you have heard the term, the YouTubers? So take the pictures, or let's say motion pictures by themselves, and create the content, and consumer-generated content will be distributed through the personal network, and this is a kind of viral effect, just like infecting some kind of diseases one to the others. So that kind of approach we discussed. And what's next? Yes, of course, several teams already addressed education as a foundation. We do need to educate the people. And what else? Collaboration. Yeah, so again, so there must be some sort of already established brands globally. So that could be a collaboration. So for instance, Chanel times your brand and so forth. And yes, we are leveraging the awareness of that famous brand. So what else? Just a moment. Yeah, maybe next. Yes, we also talked about a little. Which one? Oh yeah. So, thank you. Yes. In the IT industries, you guys have a lot of international trade fairs, such as consumer electronic shows in the United States, Las Vegas, and so forth, where you present your newest product release over there. And we should use that place as a vehicle to attract and the media coverages. And so not one single company, HP, does that presentation, but multiple competing companies. But they can collaborate in this sense, I mean in this social benefit, but they can compete in the commercial sense of their products fine, but they could do the concerted effort in this particular things. And yes, we also talked about a little crazy idea to shoot a movie, a film, so a documentary film, by retaining the famous film director, and that film will be submitted to the Cannes Film Festival, and we also try to attract the attention of the people. And what else? Yes, some idea is also coming from the packaging of the IT products. For instance, years ago we had a famous campaign of Intel called Intel 入ってる, Intel Inside. So instead we could create logos and also the names as no conflict minerals inside kind of logo, the campaign. Every single product will be packaged in, with that logos. And yes, also another idea was let's capitalize on Tokyo Olympic, because a lot of media coming over to Tokyo in 2020, and we should also use that places for the sake of increasing public awareness. That's all what we discussed.
Well, what I had in my mind was somewhat close to what that group said. I was working in a manufacturing in the early 2000s. At that time, the EU market has declared not to use some toxic materials. So they made it like one standard. So they asked all those parts manufacturers to follow it by this year. So like all of us have to follow. So this is not about awareness. It was purely like market oriented like policy. So if you want to sell to EU market, you have to follow this. Then we submit a bunch of samples. And so like probably if it comes to like PC, I don't know the numbers, but like HP, Dell, Acer, Lenovo, I think that covers majority of the computers in the whole world. If those companies could like get together to make like we're not like accepting any like parts, materials using this conflict minerals, then I think that may like decrease in certain level. But I think the hardest part is it's not about the material, it's all about the process, right? So like how do we monitor like they're doing the right process? I think that's the hardest part to figure out. That's what I was kind of thinking.
What else?
Can you add some of it?
Yeah, so then another idea was to bring somebody who suffered from this, like from one of the countries, somebody who like was poor and had to do all this work to make the minerals. Maybe bring that person to Japan and have him do like a presentation. And then, well, one thing, Japanese people like foreigners, I think. So, and then also like, yeah, so people will be interested. You can be in like, hey, I got a scar from the guy who hit me with a gun. And yeah, I think that would be interesting, and people can see the real face. And yeah. Okay.
Good. We try to go for a little bit crazy idea, as crazy as possible. One is that, well, maybe takes really long time to get people involved in this kinds of topic. So we should get famous people like rock stars and famous musicians, and if they tell the messages to audience, it's really, I mean, I happened to see the Juju concert with my wife the other day. I was like, really, I really paid attention and listened to what she said for 2 days.
For 2 days.
So people people pay attention, and also yeah, there are a lot of things in SNS, but we, in the meantime, ice bucket could be a very interesting thing. I think. Then we shouldn't go for to a very specific event, but our group thinks we can do something at the Tokyo Olympics 2020, because there's going to be people from developed countries and from people from Africa, so we can do something there. Yes, and one thing, it's not a direct thing, but in order to increase the awareness of Africa in general, we need to, in Japan, we need to have more foreign exchange students from Africa, because I'm sorry, I don't have the number, but the ratio of African students in all foreign exchange students, probably 1/10 something. We hardly see African students around us. If we see more, I mean, we can feel that Africa is really close. So I think that could be a key. Thank you. That's good.
Our group discussed mainly my favorite topic ever, which was chocolate. Because we have an expert on cocoa here who has been in Africa many times, getting us the most tastiest cocoa beans. And so we were discussing, okay, first of all, we were kind of mapping out the factors, who do we need to influence. So we have the consumers and we have the companies. And we spend a lot of time discussing companies because if we can get a company like Meiji to think about where the cocoa beans come from more and how to improve the situation of the cocoa farmers, that would create a huge impact. Because, for example, in Europe this has been a growing discussion, fair trade cocoa, and here in Japan you hardly ever see this. Who has ever bought a fair trade chocolate in Japan? Okay, we have 3 people for 5. And then the other important thing so there's always 2 groups that influence companies. One's the investors. We didn't really talk about this, but we talked about consumers. And when can consumers be influenced the most? By their kids. So we talked about, okay, what do we do? How can we make kids more aware? Because other people were also talking about that. Getting in more exchange students. We're talking about having a class trip to Africa, but then maybe Japanese kids would rather have a Nintendo DS than go to Africa, even though probably the price is the same. And then we mentioned that for example, we had one member who grew up in Hawaii, and they had this Pizza Hut program where when you read a book and you can get a stamp, and then if you have enough stamp, you can get a piece of pizza. So when I do the same with chocolate, so if you read about Africa or take part in some Africa exhibition or something, you get like a little stamp card and you can get
Pizza.
chocolate. Chocolate is more healthy. And then, of course, we would have to bring Meiji in, and then maybe they can open something like People Tree and open a fair trade chocolate stores or a chocolate cafe here in Tokyo, and then the kids can go there with their little stamp cards and get the chocolate and say, oh, I learned about Africa. Any other ideas that the team wants to push? So that was kind of was a very happy discussion about chocolate.
There were quite a few very interesting ideas. Some of them included, like, we have to make a label of some kind, just to make sure that these are the conflict-free products or whatever. And I think we also talked a little bit about regulation. If we make it legal and set up the deadline, by then you have to follow in order to do business in EU or US or wherever. So that's another one. And I think I heard a lot about education. You really would like to implement the kids or the teachers. And at the same time, you would like to use some famous people who would sort of emphasize these things. And I think that's been going on for some time in other areas. So that's a very good idea. And the use of social media. I think a lot of you have mentioned, whether that's YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And we also hear about this Olympics, the major events where the media coverage is very high, and a lot of people would see. But I also thought it was a very good idea to have more Africans around, because if we have worked together or studied together or talked with them, they become much closer, and that becomes your problem or your issue. But if you're just imagining what the people in Africa like, it's a very different story. So before I went to Ethiopia, I had absolutely no idea. I didn't even know where it was. I went there because there was an African forum, and I was invited. And I thought, well, I've never been to that part of Africa. I've been to South Africa, but not to that part. So I checked that, and I learned a little bit about that. And that's how I met with Samejima-san in the first place. And after I went there, I had much clearer idea what Ethiopia is. So whenever I heard about the story or news about Ethiopia, that became much closer to my heart. So that was a clear difference. And I also thought it was very interesting to give stamps so that if you learn something, and I was just going to tell you about this, our stamps. And in that case, if you come to Davos Experience in Tokyo, you can collect the stamps. And you don't get pizza or chocolate, but you're invited to Yoko's bar if you collect 5. So that's what I wanted to tell you. And so that's about it. And let me ask Nagashima-san and Samejima-san as to how they found some of the ideas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for very interesting new ideas. It was really, I enjoyed listening to you all discussing. Regarding the level, I think maybe if conflict minerals aspect is added to the already existing famous level, I think that works. But if you create a new one, maybe it takes a lot of cost and effort to promote that level itself. How many of you know the Donguri mark? No, right? How many of you know the international Danbol mark? No. So, as I'm an environmental person, I know so many marks, but yeah, basically, there is a even database in the Ministry of Environment website about the labels. So that means there are so many already, and we manufacturers are struggling where to put the increasing number of levels to the battery pack, or not to disturb the design. So even in iPhone they have electronic mark inside. So actually the manufacturers are already struggling with marks. So maybe I think adding to the existing one it works. And also it's really interesting to hear about the trade show. I once tried to put the environmental booth in the commercial HP's trade show, and more than I expected, many people came to that booth. So I hope I could try that kind of things in the future. So and also I enjoyed a lot of other ideas as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. For the Olympic, actually, already there is some movement to make ethical Olympic. To make some of the business person who are involved in the ethical industry like me is trying to do something like that. So if you are interested, then I will share this idea to Ishikura Sensei, then maybe you can see from her blog or something. And the others, I'm very interested in to educate more for kids. It's very somehow good idea, because once we think we follow the idea, it's very difficult to change after that. So to educate kids is very good idea. Others also, I was very inspired, so I may be copied from your idea somehow. Thank you very much.
I think that concludes this session, and I would like to thank all of you to come all the way to here, despite all those accidents in subways and a pouring rain. And I think probably some of you are getting pretty hungry and ready for the drink. So I think we're going to move to other place if you are interested, because it's getting pretty late, 9:30. So some of you may have difficulty getting home. But this concludes the session here at HP Japan, and I would like to thank the people of HP Japan to give us this opportunity. Last but not least, I would like to do a little bit of marketing, because my new book just came out, and the Kindle version is also available. And it's selling so far pretty well. I would like to add, I would like to sell a little more. So if you could take a look at it, I would really appreciate it. I think there's a flyer at the front, so you can take a look at it. And there are some reviews, and I talk about that quite often as well. Okay, with that note, I would like to also thank Kotani-san and Miura-san from Wilson Learning to help us make this event possible, and also Yamazaki-san, who has been shooting, and Isaka-san, who is the photographer. And we will have a video archive later on, and I will also write the quick report on my blog, and I'll inform you. And there is a Facebook group, as well as we tend to write on tweet as well. So thank you very much. And I think this is it. If you could let us know where. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's it. And the next session is going to be, we will not have any session in August. That's a summer holiday. The 4th of September is our next session. And it will be done at Mitsubishi UFJ Research Consulting in Kamiyacho. So we will be much closer to our regular place. And so that's, and the topic is how to make sure that everybody, including minorities, can feel included. How can we make the society that everybody feels included? We talk about inclusive, And we talk about LGBT, we talk about all these things, so handicap and so forth. So we would like to talk about that. And how we do it, we'll figure out in a month. So thank you very much, and I hope you have fun.